Yes, I know. I wear this dress in like every video, but I like this dress, okay? Over a month ago, I got asked if I could make a video on advice for living with roommates. And I am so sorry that it has taken me this long to get around to making this video. I have been crazy busy and I have so many ideas for videos that it just took me an unnecessary amount of time to get around to making this video. And I'm sorry, but I'm doing it now. So here it goes. Now I know I said this video was supposed to be an advice video, but when I was thinking about it, I realized I am probably not the best person to give advice on living with roommates, since I kind of didn't really talk to most of mine. So instead, I'm just going to talk about my experience with living with roommates, and I hope that you're able to get something from that. This video is going to be split up into 3 parts. Things I liked about living with roommates, things I didn't like about living with roommates, and what I learned from living with roommates over the past year. So one of the things that I really liked, this is probably my favorite thing about living with roommates, is that if you're able to connect with one of your roommates, then you have like an automatic friend who you live with, which is great. And in the place where I lived for the past year, I had 5 roommates, 6 if you count me. And during my first semester, I did become really close with 2 of my roommates, which was great because that meant that I always had someone to do things with, and I always had someone to talk to. And whenever things were happening on campus, I had someone to go with me. Also, a bonus to becoming friends with one of your roommates is that if you're like me and you have trouble making friends with people, you can just kind of piggyback on your roommates' friendships and become friends with their friends, and then you can have a whole group of friends, and it's great. And the other thing that I liked about having roommates is that we were able to share a lot of things. So like, when I first moved in, I didn't have to spend a lot of money on like pots and pans and other kitchen appliances because we kind of split those up. Because we didn't need to each have our own blender. And honestly, we didn't need to have 6 pots. I think we had 3 pots and like 3 or 4 pans, and that was perfect for the 6 of us. Because you're never all going to be cooking at the same time. So it's really nice to be able to share so that nobody has to spend a lot of money on everything that they need. And also, my roommates were pretty chill. So if I like ran out of eggs or something, I could just ask one of them and they'd be like, oh yeah, you can totally use one of my eggs or my butter or my milk. And like, you always hear these stories about roommates stealing other roommates' food, and I mean, that kind of happens. But usually if you ask, your roommate will let you have some of whatever they have. So there are some nice things about having roommates. I think one of my least favorite things was when I kind of felt like my roommates weren't respecting my personal space. I really like having my own space, and I had my own room for a long time growing up. And sometimes my roommates would do things, and I'd be like, excuse me, I know we share this space, but just have some respect for the other person that you're living with. So I had one roommate who would like video chat people at like 11 o'clock at night in our bedroom. And she would talk really, really loud. And like, it's not like I was sleeping, but a lot of the times I'd be in there reading. And she would just come in and have these loud conversations. Because like, if I saw somebody reading, I'd be like, oh, you're doing something in here, let me go somewhere else. And I mean, I'm not saying that she was a terrible roommate, she was fine. It's just that every once in a while, she would do these things where I would be like, hey, I was in here first and I'm clearly in the middle of something. Can you kind of be aware of your surroundings? And I really don't like, confronting people, so I always felt kind of bad when I asked her to be quiet. But, sometimes you gotta do that. If someone is doing something that's bothering you, you just gotta be like, hey, look, I'm doing this right now, could you be a little quieter? Another thing that I didn't like, and I mean, I'm guilty of this too, is when people forget to clean up after themselves. So like, if someone had cooked and they just left stuff all over the counter, it would get kind of really annoying. And it's like fine if you forget every once in a while to clean something up, because no one is going to remember to clean up every little thing every single time. But some people would just leave messes every day, and that is just not something you should do when you're living with other people. because then your other roommates have to clean up after you all the time. So that was just something that kind of got on my nerves a lot. But again, it really wasn't that bad, because if you ask people to clean up after themselves, they usually will. You just have to ask them politely, which I think is one of the most important things I learned from living with roommates. That, like, if you want something to be done, or if someone is, like, bothering you, you just have to tell them. Because you don't want to be unhappy in the place that you're living. So, I mean, don't be rude about it. But, you know, mention things to people. So, like, I had a roommate who, one time she put one of my mugs in the dishwasher, and it wasn't supposed to go in the dishwasher. Fortunately, it didn't get ruined. Like, it got a little banged up, but it's fine. But the next time I saw her, I was like, I saw you put my mug in the dishwasher, and it's actually supposed to be hand washed, but it's fine, just, you know, don't do it again. She was like, oh yeah, sorry. I didn't know. And so it was totally fine, and no one put my mug in the dishwasher again. So, you know, you just gotta mention things to people in the nicest way possible. And I mean, that also goes the other way. 'Cause you also need to try to be, like, courteous and respectful of the people that you're living with, like, especially in the areas that you share. If you, like, have a living room or a kitchen, just be aware of, like, if you leave things, try to always remember to, you know, clean up after yourself. And I've learned that if you kind of stay in your own space, people don't mind. So I'm not a super neat and tidy person. My room is usually a mess. But my mess stayed on my side of the room, and neither of my roommates that I shared a room with really seemed to mind. And if I felt like my room was getting too messy, I would tidy it up. And yeah, if you do make messes, if you're like me, and you forget sometimes that you did something and you didn't clean up after yourselves, if someone mentions it to you, just fix it right away. You don't want to be a problem. Hopefully your roommates don't want to be a problem. And if everyone's just nice and polite and respectful of each other, you should be okay. So living with roommates really isn't that bad, as long as no one is being a jerk. Yeah, and that's it. I hope that you're able to learn something from my experiences, or at least reassure yourself that you're not being a bad roommate. And if you're not in a situation where you have roommates yet, maybe this will help you prepare for a time when you will have to live with someone else. And maybe that time has come and gone, and this will either remind you that you were a good roommate or a bad roommate. I hope you weren't a bad roommate. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you to everyone who's already subscribed to my channel. If you're not subscribed to this channel, subscribe for more of my adventures and thoughts and general weirdness from my brain. Don't forget to like and share this video, maybe with someone who needs some help being a better roommate. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Bye!